the only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to 612 Vikings. I am Dustin, and we don't have Drew quite yet alongside with us, but we do have the next best, and we do have John, aka that Vikings guy on TikTok.
Yeah.
John, if you want to introduce yourself for those of you that don't know you.
Yeah, so on TikTok or on YouTube, I'm VikingsGuy Day One. I have a podcast. During the season, it's usually a couple episodes. The first episode of the week is usually a breakdown of the previous game, and the second one's a preview of the NFC North games and then of the Vikings, things that are going on. Special podcasts here or there. Last year was the first season. I think we did almost 30 episodes, so we were busy. So we're starting to build that Twitter presence, but mostly we're TikTok and we do stuff on there, and that's kind of our milieu. We do a lot of lives. You try to do a live 2-3 times a week. When the football season gets going, it's usually 5 days a week. You know that. So we do a lot of different things. Yeah, I work at US Bank Stadium, so I'm at every home game. I was one of the few that was at every home game last year, including London, which is some sort of weird flex, but there you go.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. Make sure you guys, if you guys are on TikTok, go follow him. He does live streams. You got to check out those live streams, especially the Skull After Dark or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
That's what it should be called if it's not already.
No,
but,
that's what it is with Sal Spice. Yeah, it gets a little spicy, you might say.
Oh, yeah, good stuff from him. Definitely go check him out. But today, we are going to talk about the 2025-2026 Vikings schedule for this year. So let me pull this up for you guys on YouTube. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but we went over the schedule yesterday, our blind reaction to it, and I only knew like 1 or 2 games, maybe 3, before the actual schedule got released.
Yeah.
But opening up at Chicago on Monday Night Football, kind of different. We haven't opened up on Monday Night Football since I think like 2015 when we opened up against the Niners. We lost that game, but John, how do we feel about opening up against the Chicago Bears?
Well, I think it's actually, there's a few things in this schedule that are sort of advantageous for the Vikings, and I think this is one of them. I am one of the believers that Ben Johnson will be a better than average coach, and if he is, we want to play them before their offensive line is gelled, before he's implemented all of his different things for his offense.
Good point.
I feel like this is a get on the road, let JJ get some of those early season jitters out. And, it'll be billed as Caleb versus JJ. When in reality, it'll probably be the other JJ, Justin Jefferson, that's making big splashes. But, I feel good about this. I mean, every year the hype train is so heavy on the Bears. They're what I call an in theory team. They need to be in practice before I believe them.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said before, week 1, they're not quite gelled. They had training camp, but they didn't have actual live reps all together. And week 1, it's gonna look a little funky. And games in Soldier Field are always a little funky anyway.
Yeah.
Anything against the Bears really. But Monday night, that's as funky as you can get throughout the whole schedule at Soldier Field on Monday Night Football to open up the season. So I don't know. I honestly, I'd probably put this as a win if I had to put wins and losses on here. Just for the Vikings, they're the most experienced, I guess, so far as a team. But moving on to week 2, we have the home opener against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. I don't think it'll be Kirky Boy returning this time. It will probably most likely be Michael Penix. How are we feeling Sunday Night Football?
Well, I'll say something. Historically, this is the first time the Vikings have had back-to-back primetime games to start a season since the 1979-80 season, their last year at Met Stadium. And so it's interesting that the Vikings are getting a lot of that love. I think it's an intriguing story with a 14-3 team with a new rookie quarterback, and they added pieces. Outside of Bijan, who are you afraid of on that? Maybe Drake London, but who are you afraid of? Are you afraid of Penix? Is that a guy that's striking fear into you?
He's just
they don't
a guy.
have Dahlman. I just think the Falcons went a different way. And is this the year finally that Kyle Pitts makes 100 catches? The guy every year he's emerging.
We said that last year.
He is the Atlanta Falcons version of Laquan Treadwell or Williamson, Troy Williamson. It's like, oh no, he got glasses this offseason. He's worked on catching passes. It's like every year it's more BS of like what he's doing. I think Kyle
Right.
Pitts is a bust. I'm sorry, he's not had a lot to throw to him, but he's kind of bustorama. And to honestly to start this, it's a nice soft landing for the Vikings, a winnable game against the Bears, a game they should win against the Falcons at home. And I don't think Penix has played in any situation so far that mimics US Bank Stadium. So I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I mean he was there last year, but he obviously didn't play. And then with a primetime game, it's going to be loud as hell in that stadium too, especially as a home opener. So I don't know, like you said, it's probably the most favorable weeks 1 and 2 that you can get for the Vikings. And without looking too far ahead, the Vikings last year started out 5-0 before they got their first loss against the Lions, but looking at this schedule, I think within the first 5 weeks, I think these are all a lot of winnable games. I mean, the Vikings are undefeated internationally. What, they're 4-0. So,
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the week 3 versus the Bengals at noon, that's probably a winnable game. They got no defense. How are we feeling about the
Yeah,
Bengals?
yeah, that's tricky. That's a good offense. That's a really good offense. You're right about the defense, and how much of Trey Hendrickson's heart's going to be in it. He was complaining the other day, and rightfully so. I mean, he's led the league in sacks, 2 out of the last 4 years. And so what do? The brain trust in Cincinnati pay T. Higgins. I just don't understand. I mean, pass rushers at that level, like a Hendrickson, are like a dime, or they're hard to find, right? They're not a
Yeah.
dime a dozen. I mean, they are not everywhere. So you get a chance to lock one in, one that's been was a big part of your Super Bowl team, and you sort of piss on him, and we're not going to pay you. That's Bengals, man. This team, Paul Brown
Prime Bengals.
Jr. is a mess, and he's a terrible owner, and the facilities are bad. This is a game the Vikings should win at home. Short of Joe Burrow just going off, it's hard to root against that guy. He's just very, very good. But they should start 3-0, and like you said, going into that Dublin and London game, is Rodgers going to start? Not to steal your thunder, but is Rodgers going to start? Is he going to play for the Steelers? If not, it's Mason Rudolph, and
Yeah.
then it's whatever joker that the Browns put out there in London. And the Vikings travel very well, so that London game may be a Browns home game. Give me a break. I think
Yeah,
five
no.
people in Cleveland can afford to go. I mean, it's a joke.
Right, right. And I think this Steelers and Browns game are probably the most favorable matchups quarterback wise for opponents that the Vikings have to face because they're playing Russian roulette with the Browns for their quarterback. Who's going to be the starter for Week 5? The Steelers, if it's Rodgers, if it's Mason Rudolph, regardless, give me a win
Yeah.
with those 2 weeks. So I don't know. Like you said, Vikings fans travel very well. Whether that's from the U.S. or a lot of UK fans as well. They have their own UK page as well.
Right.
So it'll be fun to watch. Back to back international games. The Vikings are the guinea pigs for that. It'll be fun. It'll be kind of fun to watch. I don't know if you saw the video too that the schedule maker, the VP president, whatever he was, called the Vikings and was like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on playing back-to-back international games?" And I guess they were kind of open-minded, and then they were kind of easing into it, and then they finally embraced it. So I think it's cool that they want to do it. I guess, quote unquote, want to do
Yeah.
it.
You got to wonder if they weren't just sort of told. It's kind of like when your parents suggest you do something and then eventually they tell you to do something. I wonder if it isn't more like that because it feels like that. I don't see I mean, short of playing what it should have been regular straight road games, as short of those being neutral games, what is the benefit to the Vikings as a team to have a rookie quarterback in essence in another country for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
The distraction should be the minimum. But I just knowing the NFL, I just feel like they would present it as, oh, the Vikings were straight away on this thing and they were on board. I think it's more like you're gonna. Well, do you want to do this? And then you don't call them back because you really don't want to. And then they're like, hey, we're doing this, and you're like, yay. I
yeah,
just I just don't understand. I mean, you take a
just a
premier
mess.
franchise like the Vikings and you stick them overseas. I made a comment in my podcast. Great, we're the new Jaguars. Is that what we are now?
I don't want to be.
Well, I don't
I don't
want.
want to
If
be the
this was
guinea pigs.
if this would have been a home game this year again, I'd have been pissed.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
definitely
I
taking
that I
away a
mean
home game.
I went to London last year. It was great. It was fun. It was an experience of a lifetime. Blah blah blah. Whatever. But I hated the fact that we lost a home game.
Yeah, take what would we have, like 9 home games, 8 road games, so or
Yeah.
yeah, 7 road
Yeah.
games, 1 international, so
Yeah.
whatever it was,
They
but
called it a home game, but I went to the game.
yeah,
Trust me. The only thing home about it is they had Victor blowing the Galler horn, and
yeah, that was new.
dude,
That was new.
it's an odd environment in Europe for the football people. I think I've told this story before. They took 3 places in London and turned them into like Vikings, like a team store, and one of them was the Outer Net. I made a video about like the video boards. It's the largest continuous LED video board in Europe. It was very cool.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
anyways, I'm in the Vikings team store, and there's a guy in there wearing a Bills pullover from like 1996, and he's got a Bears hat on. And
Oh,
I'm standing there next to my daughter, and I look at the guy. I go, "Come on, man, Bears! You're in the Vikings team store with the Bears hat." He goes, "No," and he's Russian. You go, "No, no, I Bills." And it's like, I mean, would you ever like, okay, I'm gonna wear my Vikings jersey with a random Bengals hat on? It's just
no,
that's the vibe, though, man. You walk they have this long road to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and there's 7 million different jerseys, Mike Evans and I mean, just weird like Jacksonville
weird vibe.
jerseys. Yeah, it is. It's just because they're fans. It's kind of like that year at playoffs when Rob Lowe wore the NFL hat.
Yep,
That's what it
yep,
feels like. It's like it's this is like there's Kleenex brand Kleenex and everything's called a Kleenex. Over
yep,
there, the NFL is NFL brand NFL, and you just want to be part of it, which I get. It's new, it's fresh,
right,
it's
right.
exciting. It's not soccer, but it just feels it still feels very artificial. And I'm sure there's people in Europe that be like, "Oh, look at him, Mister Entitled Vikings fan." But listen, listen, I'm Vikings guy day one. I've been a Vikings fan since the moment I shot out of my mama's whatever.
Since
And
day one.
so, correct. And so for them to come in now, which is great, I'm glad you're a fan, but remember where you came from too. We're teaching you this.
Yep, yep,
Okay.
exactly. Those of you that are on the YouTube audience as well, you guys saw, Drew pop in. So Drew, how we doing? How we doing?
Doing good, just trying to get personal life stuff out of the way, and long way on the way back. Let's just say that hit some traffic. So
Yeah.
just got back on as soon as I could. So yeah, it's going good, and schedule release day. So, and we got some other news I'm sure we'll kind of talk about. I don't know if you mentioned it about Caleb Williams and that whole
Have not talked
situation.
about that
So
yet.
yeah, that found that
Yeah.
pretty interesting. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get up to the next Bears game here. We're at
Yeah.
the bye week right now.
Okay.
So bye week, Vikings win, awesome. Coming off of the bye week, like we did in what was it, 2016, we are playing the Eagles, but we are playing them at US Bank Stadium at noon. Will JJ McCarthy be the next Kirk Cousins, where he's playing great in noon games? We'll see against a really good Eagles defense and offense. Good Super Bowl hangover team, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and the Vikings are 2-1 under O'Connell after the bye. But really kind of lackluster deals. They beat the Raiders 3-0 after their bye.
Yeah.
They've not been like super sterling after buys. Where there are some coaches where it's like and Zimmer was one of them. If he had a week to prepare for the bye, or Denny Green was really good. If you were able to prepare for that bye, chances are you're going to win. Andy Reid's another one of those. And O'Connell, that's not been his forte. And then for us to have the bye and then play the Eagles, I don't love it. And I could see the Eagles. I mean, even though they've lost some players, I could still see them, winning this game at US Bank Stadium.
Mhm. Drew, what are your thoughts on playing the Eagles after the bye?
Well, I have them going 5-0 going into the bye, so very similar
That's what we were talking about.
script going into last year. I'll try to make it quick, but I actually I'm not I don't hate the back-to-back London double games. I know you guys are trying to talk about it, but
Hmm.
I kind of view it as long. You got to make the one trip up there. The team we're playing already has the one trip up there, and then we'll have the nice short trip over to London, which kind of helps a lot. Just kind of wish we preferred if we play the Browns first
That's
and
a
the
good
Steelers
point.
second, but yeah. But going into the bye week, I do think this will be a game that we could potentially see some interesting things happen. It's going to come down to the trenches more than anything else, and can the Eagles' defensive line get penetration on J.J. McCarthy? I think that's really going to be the key because they lost Milton Williams. Josh Sweat is gone. Because I don't even think they drafted anyone really high in the draft earlier. I mean, not off the top of the dome, but I know they took Jahad Campbell in the first round. They're really, I don't think the D line is 100% there. You know you got Jalen Carter, you got your Jordan Davis. You know that could be a potential thing to watch out for. But you know, Jordan Davis is not an every down interior rusher, so I think that's really going to be the key to the game. Is this how well is this new Vikings offensive line going to play? Because if they're not gelling yet, even going into week 7, I think you might see some troubles, and I could see that you dropping it. But you know, if they can hold their own, protect J.J. McCarthy, you're able to run the football, I think things can get interesting where you might be able to steal one. So, but I think just for the sake of this one, I'll give them a loss just because I think they'll, you know, starting 5-0, I feel like you'd be kind of due for a loss. So I'll go with the loss at home against the Eagles in this one.
Okay. Coming off of that week as well, we're going to Thursday Night Football to SoFi Stadium. The last time we played at SoFi Stadium on a Thursday Night Football, the Vikings unfortunately lost, and that was the Rams game. But hopefully we can get a different result being at a different team, different conference. But Los Angeles Chargers on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting game. The Vikings on a short week after getting, playing a very physical Philly team worries me. I think the storyline of this game will be, Harbaugh versus McCarthy, because that's what they'll make it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see that. You know, the Chargers, SoFi is not really a home field advantage. It's one of these that the Vikings could steal, but they got to be careful. I don't call it a trap game, but it's one of those games where they're talented enough that if you dick around, you could end up with a loss. Some weird shit will happen. The margin of error could be so thin with a Charger team who I think could maybe win their division this year that if you monkey around, you could end up losing this game.
Yeah, I think I'll go at a different route because I know, like you said, everyone's going to talk about the Harbaugh McCarthy thing, but I think the thing that I'm going to be watching for is I'm going to be praying to the football gods that we come out of this stadium healthy, because if you do not know, SoFi Stadium is where ACLs go to die. We saw it last year in Christian Darrisaw. We've seen it in Cooper Kupp. We've seen it in all these different superstars in the NFL. ACLs, I don't know what it is. I think it's the slit turf or whatever they call it. I think is what the big thing for it. I heard they might be changing it. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it was them or if it was New York because of the World Cup. I think it might have been New York, but that's like the main thing I'm going to be watching for, just praying to the heavens that we can just come out of there healthy, because like I said, they're just people get injured there all the time. I don't know what it is down there. It just seems like that stadium's cursed. Maybe it's because the Chargers are there. Who knows? But I don't know. That's just the main thing I'm going to be hoping for. But I'll go with the win on this one. I think they'll go in. They'll win it. I think the Chargers are a team that kind of lost some players. You know, they don't have Asante Samuel. I don't really like their secondary all that much. Derwin James has kind of had some health concerns every now and then. So how healthy is that going to be? You know, they have the running game. They got I think that's just the main thing is they're just going to run the football, try to keep J.J. McCarthy off the field. But I think we'll be able to strike right back. I think we'll score efficiently, and I think we'll get the job done on the road.
Sure. Yeah, I think the next couple weeks here, I think, are going to be the toughest part of our schedule. I'll just kind of go through them all, and then we can kind of talk about them real quick, too. Mm-hmm. So we're going on the road to Detroit. That's a noon game. We're playing at home against the Ravens, at home against the Bears, at the Green Bay Packers, and I'll finish this off with at Seattle. I feel like that's probably the toughest part of our schedule. You could probably even add in that Commanders team as well, but I don't know. I feel like those 4 to 5 weeks is probably the toughest part of the schedule, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, the tough part is stringing together these home games. You know, the Vikings, when you look at it, it's like 2 games at home, then they're gone for a while, then 1 game, and then 2 games at home, and then they're gone again, and then it's 2 games at home. You know, it's hard to get that momentum at home, and I think that's something that could affect them. You know, the nice thing about going to Detroit after the Thursday night game is you get a few extra days to recover, and they'll be well prepared for Detroit. Ravens at home, Bears at home. What are you getting at that point from Caleb? And, you know, injuries. You know, that's one of the things they talked about, the strength of schedule. Look at the Vikings, Bears, Packers, Lions strength of schedule. Yep. That was last year, right? I mean, we don't know from year to year which teams are going to stink and which ones are going to be good. I mean, they flip that around middle of the year and say, wow, the Vikings haven't really played anybody. You know, like last year when we beat the Texans, like, wow, you beat the Texans, and they turned out to be Good, not great, in a shitty division. And then we play the Niners, and of course they were a train wreck. They weren't as hurt, but they were still sort of hurt. And so some of this stuff, it's just like pump the brakes a little bit. You go through that stretch. I think that Detroit could end up last in the division. I wouldn't be shocked a bit if that's where it ended up. I think they're
Clip that chat.
well, I don't think anybody's talking about this Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn thing. I mean, losing both your coordinators, and let's be honest, Dan Campbell, he isn't a Rhodes Scholar, right? Yeah, he's a dip. I mean, and so I think a lot of those coordinators made him look really bright. He's a tight end. You know how many hits the head? So let's say that Lions game, we beat the Lions. The Ravens at home. Honestly, with this defense, I don't know, short of the Eagles, that we should lose a home game. I just don't feel like we probably would lose a home game. We could lose the Bengals, but that team at home, especially with this defense, is a problem for offenses, and it will be.
Yeah, I think the main thing, I saw this from Albert Breer, and he was trying to connect the dots of what's the situation we've seen of a rookie quarterback getting hurt and having a knee injury and then bouncing back and playing well. And we look not that long ago to the massage guy himself, Deshaun Watson with the Houston Texans, did so well after his torn ACL. I think he came in through for like 4,000 yards, like 25-something touchdowns, and they went to, I think, won like 13-something games, 12 games, something around that. But it has been done before. So if there's any fans that want to sleep on JJ, JJ was drafted higher than Deshaun Watson if they take that into effect. He had a better college career than Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. And on top of that, he's got a less severe knee injury than Deshaun Watson than the year prior. So I think that's something to note too, is what kind of JJ are we getting? Are we going to get a Deshaun Watson comeback player of the year kind of player where he throws for that 4,000 yards, 25-ish touchdowns? Because if we do get that JJ, I don't think we skip a beat, because we have all that continuity on the coaching staff. I mean, we lost Grant Udinski, who's an assistant quarterback coach. So, I mean, I don't want to downplay the role of a coaching staff member, but it's not to the level of what the Lions were losing guys like Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I mean, and here's the thing too, you could have these new Lions guys come in, they can perform well too. Kelvin Shepard, I do like Kelvin Shepard. I think he's a good rah-rah guy in the locker room, but I know people like to go and dunk on Dan Campbell calling him the cheerleader, but at the same time, you're going to have somebody who has the brains of, okay, I'm a tactician, I can do the X's and O's. And I think that's what Aaron Glenn kind of did I think they do share something similar, but Aaron Glenn also played at a very elite level in the NFL versus Kelvin Shepard. So I think that's something to look at. And then John Morton is kind of a wait and see for their OC. I mean, no one really knew who Ben Johnson was, but he panned out. So we'll see how this works out for Detroit. But I mean, I will say there will be a regression in Detroit, and there's going to be a regression with us. I don't think we're going to have 15, 14, and 11 win teams all in a row like this happen again. It's somebody's going to have to give, and I think it could be all three of us. So,
well, in regards to that Watson McCarthy thing, I guess we could just hope that McCarthy has Watson's happy ending, correct?
Yeah, in a different way, storybook happy ending, we'll call it.
Correct.
The Super Bowl.
Depending upon what kind of books you read, if you ever check in VikingsGuy Day 1 After Dark, we talk about all kinds of books. We're very much into literary accomplishment.
There you go. Hey, another reason to go check out his lives, guys. Another reason to do that.
Listen, you guys have been there. You never know what Sal and I are going to say. You just never know.
Yeah.
No, and that makes it fun, though. That makes it fun.
Yeah.
So, another thing to add on to this, too, before we move on to our next couple of opponents, I like the string of noon games, honestly. Take a little break from the primetime action. I don't know if you want to count at Seattle, if that's like America's Game of the Week or not, if that's primetime, but those string of noon games is definitely going to help the Vikings in a way, because you're staying on a routine as well. So I just kind of want to put that out there. Let's see. We're on to at home against the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, great rookie season, coming off a great rookie season. Hopefully he doesn't have a sophomore slump. I really like Jaden Daniels. I hope he does really well, just not against us. And, another noon game.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's the NFL offenses or the defenses, they're going to scheme for Jaden Daniels. I think he's great. I think he's he's already a top 15 quarterback easy.
Easy.
Can
Yep.
he stay healthy? That sophomore slump is a real thing. These NFL defensive coaches get paid to do a job. There will be some adjustments, and there will be things that change with Deebo Samuel's in that offense. Uh,
Yep.
so that's a tough one for the Vikings. But I honestly, you look at what rookie quarterbacks do at US Bank Stadium. It's usually not very good, or
Yeah,
like even
and
second year guys. I mean, younger guys just haven't done well there.
I think an underrated part, I think could come into effect too, is since we've already played Philly, you might be tapping the Nick Sirianni phone line and saying, "Hey, what do you kind of see? What's kind of worked for you? Especially I don't know what Washington's schedule is, but could definitely help out because it could be a thing where we might have to scratch Philly's back in that scenario, and we've already played them. So uh, I think that's something to look out for. And obviously, you mentioned our sophomore slump with our guy Jaden Daniels there, but I think something that is a little bit underrated in my opinion was they added the offensive part, which they got Deebo Samuel, but I think a lot of people don't really realize how much they really didn't address their defensive side of the ball. And they did come up really big when they needed to in the postseason by shutting down Detroit. But did they really shut down Detroit? They gave up 35 plus points.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and one of the cogs of that was Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, and that's true.
Coming
Yeah, he was
back.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Tampa Bay is okay. I mean, they're a solid team in the NFC. I just don't see them as a elite top tier Super Bowl contender team. They're a team that I expect to win the South, but I don't really see them doing damage by making an NFC title game. They'll win a playoff game at best. I think that's kind of their ceiling. And and they gave up, I think, 23 to 20 points to them as well. So, and they're not an electric offense. And I believe wasn't Chris Godwin hurt in that?
I
He
think
might have
so.
been. Yeah. So you had if he was, you had Chris Godwin hurt, and then Mike Evans is aging. You really saw that last year as well. You're really starting to see the old Tom Brady Bucks start to get older, age out, start to leave. So impressive that they got to the NFC title game with the rookie quarterback, but I think there's some things that you look and you're like, why did he get down there? And I think that's why a lot of people are saying, oh my God, look how great he is. But I think there's a scenario where we can, especially with us hosting, I think we could beat them. I really do. Especially with our newfound defensive line. And I think that just them addressing that is going to do wonders. And Washington's O-line is really not that great either. Sam Cosmi might be missing some time around this time as well. I mean, he's coming off a torn ACL in the playoffs, so that's something to note as well. So I very much think we could beat this team at home. It'll be a close one, but I think we can beat them, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jonathan Allen definitely has this game circled for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, the next two games at the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, and then at New York Giants, a cold game, December 21st. But Dallas Cowboys, me and John were talking off air that, this could get flexed out of Sunday Night Football, and I'll let John kind of explain why.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You get to this time of the year, I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be very good. I know we have to listen to all the pundits and say, well, they're coming back. Dak's healthy, and they have
It's our year.
Pickens, whatever. What have they done at running back, really? Where are they at on defense? I mean, you got Micah Parsons, and then you got a pack of chewing gum. I don't believe in well, I don't believe in the Cowboy defense. They weren't good last year. They're playing in a division that's better. The Giants will be better because they couldn't be worse. I'll tell you guys, write this down. That, and not that this is some sort of hot take, that Abdul Carter is going to kill people. He is going to be a game wrecker, and the Giants did a great job there. And if Jackson Dart is serviceable, or whoever they end up throwing in at quarterback, I mean, is it possible the Cowboys end up in last place? Yeah. So when we get to this time of the season, I expect the Vikings to be contending for something. The Cowboys, I would be surprised if they win 8 games this year. I just do not think they're very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to go the opposite route. Not that I think that they're going to be a juggernaut in the NFC, but I think they could be a sneaky playoff team. I think it all comes down to Brian Schottenheimer. I think a lot of people don't really realize that Trayvon Diggs was out, Deron Bland was out. They added Siobhan Revel Jr. in the secondary, so the secondary is going to be really dangerous there. They obviously have Micah Parsons, Odigizua, Dante Fowler. That's not a horrible defensive line. So if they're going to win games, it's going to be on the back of that defense more than the offense. But I know you mentioned the running game. So some running backs that they have is they added Javonte Williams. They drafted Jaden Blue in the draft, and they have Miles Sanders. So
would you take any of those guys? Would you take any of those guys, or any of those a number one at this point?
I don't think so, but I think with the way that Dak plays, he could throw 50 times a game and still find some weird way to win. I think, like I said,
with
it's going
three
to be,
picks.
yeah, it'll be something like that, where the defense is going to have to show up, which I do think they still have a good defense. They, on the secondary side, I think they'll be okay. And then it's going to have to be, we have to throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, and I don't think their O line is god awful either. Does Tyler Guyton take that next step? Cooper Beebe is okay. Tyler Booker, I mean, what kind of guard is he going to be? Terrence Steele is solid. And I think the big one is Tyler Smith, who's just a beast at that left guard spot. So like I said, it's going to go one of two ways. They're either going to be a really weird 10-7 team, or they're going to be like 5-12. I don't really see a scenario where they're like 7-10 and competing, because I think it's going to fall more on Brian Schottenheimer. But I do think that this game would get flexed out. I'd have to look at that, week 15 schedule. I just feel like there would probably be some other competitive seeding game that might go into effect, whether it's, who's going to lead the NFC in that division or the AFC in that division. So, but I think that could be a very interesting one to watch out for. Not basically what I'm trying to say is just don't sleep on them. Just, I think you go in like you do as any top team, and you just show up and you do what you're supposed to do.
To punish the NFL, I hope that the Cowboys are shitty, because they keep forcing this bullshit team onto our plates every damn year. There is no reason in the world, short of Texas having 80 million people and filling the stadium down there, that they should even be in a primetime game in the first week of the season. Of all the games you could have picked, you grabbed the Cowboys and put them up against the Eagles. Like, the rest of the country sees it. I'm sorry, the Cowboys are not relevant in most of the country. They're just not relevant when they don't win anything. There's a whole generation of Cowboy fans who've never even seen them in the NFC Championship. It's been like 30 years in an NFC Championship. This is America's team. What are we doing? And that's the game we get forced on week one. I'm sorry, I'm a Cowboys hater normally. This whole because this Cowboy love thing is it's such a made up thing. It's a manufactured thing based on teams that don't exist anymore.
Yeah. They get that nickname for not for nothing, but now it's just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Genius marketing by Jerry Jones is what it is.
Yeah.
No,
right.
And it's all, at this point, it's all, you go and watch a magician and you see that sleight of hand stuff and you're like, gosh, I wonder how they do that. That's all Jerry Jones does at this point. He's not a good cap manager. He's not good at evaluating talent. There's just a whole number of things. I mean, you brought up Schottenheimer. I mean, do you think they hired Schottenheimer because their first or second choice said not to go there? I think their first and second choice probably didn't want to go there, but they were taken, and they're like, well, shit, we got to hire somebody. I mean, who else in the league was hiring Schottenheimer?
Nobody
was climbing on it. And I'm not trying, Drew, I'm not trying to piss on your take at all. This whole thing with the Cowboys is irritating, because their fans especially just, this dem boys, it's dem boys. Yeah, it's the same dem boys for 30 years.
Yeah.
From the moment they fired Jimmy Johnson, and then Switzer got that fake championship where he took all of Jimmy Johnson guys and won a Super Bowl. Ever since then, it's been train wreck city. And the only people that won't accept that are the people down in Dallas. And the rest of the country, I think, is waking up to this, saying, you know what? It's they're sort of entering the position that the Lions were in for years and years on Thanksgiving. I said to myself, why in the hell did the Lions get a game on Thanksgiving? Because once in the 1970s, they decided they'd do it. I mean, is there a matchup where you watch the Cowboys and go, that's going to be a really, really good game? It's a rivalry game, but is it a good game?
Right.
Yeah, because I think the only time I get excited for those are when it's like the Cowboys are at least competitive in the division, and they're playing like Philly or Washington or New York, and they're also competitive in that division. So was it a couple years ago? It was like the Cowboys, I think Dak got hurt, and it was like Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito or somebody like that, and the Giants, and it was just like the battle of the 4-win teams, and it was just god awful football. But I think that's really just what matters is what kind of Dak are we getting? Is he going to regress because of all these injuries he keeps stockpiling up since 2020? They're just a big question mark. I could see it. They're kind of like, I feel like us when we had Mike Zimmer. It's like, okay, this could be a team that could be a 10-win team, or they can go and win 7 games. Like, they're just in that weird window.
Why do you think the Steelers gave away Pickens for basically nothing. I mean, if he's that guy, why would they give him away?
Because he's cuckoo.
Yep, that's it. They are exactly right. And nothing against CD Lamb, but I don't think he's the most mentally stable dude out there either. And don't get me going on Micah. I mean, every week Micah talks so much shit, and then he goes out there and has a no sack, no pressure game, and he says, "Well, they played us tough or whatever." And it's like when you got a
Kinda
GM that's
overrated.
like, well, and I like Micah, and I would take Micah on our team
Oh,
because
100%.
I think he'd be less of a head case if he actually had good management, right? I mean,
Yeah.
first off, you tell your head linebacker who's all world for the first couple seasons, put the microphone away and focus on your job. If you want to get paid, focus on football. If you want to be podcast star, be podcast star. And that's the problem they run into in Green Bay and they ran into with Rodgers is who's in charge there? And if the
Hmm.
person in charge isn't competent, what are you getting? I mean, you ever worked a job where you were paid really well, but the management was just shitty? And it's
Mhm.
like life was hard every week because you weren't sure what that boss was going to do. You were paid well, so you put up with it. When you
Yep.
move into situations where management is bad, it just trickles down. I mean, look at the Jets last year. What the owner, son of the Jets, was looking up Madden ratings to determine if they'd make a trade. I mean, that
Yeah.
is a perpetually bad organization that can't get out
Uh,
of its own way. That's generational
sounds
poorness.
made up,
Yeah, it does
doesn't it?
absolutely. You hear that and you go, "What the? I mean, seriously? Like
NFL
what?"
Centel.
Yeah, I mean, you just couldn't hardly believe it. And to me, that's the land that Jerry's in right now. And you talk to Cowboy fans, well, we're just waiting for Jerry to die. I'm telling you right now, the guy's got $70 billion. He will hook himself up to a machine and roll his brain waves right into the stadium to keep that thing going. Because I
Yeah.
feel like they get sort of back to like solid decision making when Stephen Jones is around. And then Jerry, I don't know, wakes up out of his coma and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! We're going to go sign this guy that was good 4 years ago and give him $30 million and put ourselves in cap hell again." I don't want to
Yep.
turn this into
Devontae.
a Cowboys podcast, but
Yeah.
the only time that I enjoy seeing the Cowboys is when we kick the crap out of them. I love that playoff game where Favre just wiped Tony Romo's butt up and down the field all game long was one of the crowning moments of my life as a Vikings fan because it was kind of like, can you guys all just sit down and let the adults sit at the table? Because they haven't been
Yeah.
an adult at the table for a very long time. And the one time
Yeah.
they got close, they got screwed in Green Bay. So, I mean,
They're kind of like a teenager.
perfect.
It's like they could almost sit there, but they can't. They got to decide what
Well,
they
it's
want to
like
do.
it's like you ever had someone in your high school where they were sort of a jerk and they had the nicest car because their parents had a bunch of money, but they're wrapping it around a telephone pole and nobody really liked him, but they put up with him because if you were mean to the popular kid, then nobody'd sit with you at lunch. It's like a coerced love that you have to have, or you sort of get thrown on the outside. I don't care about that. The
Yeah.
Cowboys can stick it, and we talked about going maybe to Dallas for the game, and it's like I talk to people who go there and they're like, yeah, the atmosphere's okay. It's a giant stadium. And, you
Yeah.
know, by the
Yeah.
third period or third quarter, you see those folks on a nationally televised game. I mean, it's like suicide watch. Put away all the forks and knives at Dallas because they're all so angry and sad. And it's like, what did you expect? Like
Yeah.
their expectations every year are like Bears fans. Like, this is our year. And it's like, come on. I mean, really? You think that? You should go get your medicine refilled. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. I'm sorry. It's crazy stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
All
Well.
right.
That's all I got to say
Yeah.
about that.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, we only spent the last 15 minutes talking about the
God, I
Cowboys.
hate them so much. You can edit
No,
out
it's
as
all
much as you
good.
want.
No, I
I just
don't.
hate
This is
them.
all staying in. It's all staying
It's
in.
all staying in.
Um,
That's good.
all right, let's
Well,
go on to the last 2 weeks here. Lions and then Packers, two of the better teams in our division right now, I would say. One at on Christmas, which is different. First time that we've hosted a Christmas game in since how long? John, you'd
Yeah.
probably know.
Yeah, well, Christmas game. I don't know that we've ever had a Christmas game recently. We had
we
Christmas Eve
did.
in 2022.
Yeah.
2020
We don't want to
2022,
talk
the
about that
whiteout
game.
game.
We don't
2020
want,
against Alvin Kamara, Saints.
yeah. We don't want to talk about that one.
Well, I'm saying at home though at US Bank Stadium. I don't know that we've had one.
We've
Yeah,
had
that
Christmas
Alvin
Eve.
Kamara game. I was dying from
Yeah.
COVID, and he scored like 6 touchdowns, and I'm like, if this is the way my life
Put me out.
ends, I would. At
Yeah.
that day after that game was over, the doctor says you look depressed. I go, dude, and it was funny because I had. Well, I'll tell you this real quickly. So my dad got COVID like I don't know 5 days before me, maybe 6 days. I continually get sicker. He goes into the hospital. He ends up dying.
Oh,
And then I go, I know, womp womp. And then I go in, and I love him, but he's dead. I mean, I can't, whatever. And I'm an adult. It's not like I was 6 years old and my dad died in a fiery car wreck.
yeah.
But so my dad dies. I go into the hospital and I'm very sick and I'm in there for 6, 7 days. And I watch the Vikings game and I'm sitting there going, I don't know if I'm more depressed that my dad's gone forever or if this might be the last Viking game I ever see and they give up 6 touchdowns to that dip and play the worst defense they've ever played. I mean, it's tongue in cheek, but what a terrible game.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
So I kind of want to go on this one with Detroit. So I know it came out a couple years ago, but I finally just came across the Malice at the Palace documentary, and hearing some of the stuff that happened with the Kelly Stafford and the Vikings wives, like Dalton Reiser's wife or girlfriend or fiance at the time, and Blake Cashman's wife and girlfriend.
Yeah.
I guess the writing's on the wall. Should I be surprised? No, but having it be on Christmas, and if we could beat him on Christmas, Santa will bring him a big lump of coal on Christmas, and I think we'll take it. But I think I don't get why. Like, I get the passion, but I just don't think that they understand the line of knowing when things are taken too far. It's like they're like Gilbert Arenas of basketball, of NFL fans. Like I think they are a good fan base, but they just don't know where that line really is of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And maybe it's because they haven't
They don't
seen
know how to
success.
act.
Yeah, maybe it's
Yeah.
because they haven't seen success since Jesus Christ died on the cross. I don't know, but
Well, I
Yeah.
tell people, I told people 2 years ago when they were good, I said, it's like your first piece of ass. You're bragging to everybody. It's like, dude, act like you know what I mean? Like you've been there,
Yeah.
act like this isn't your first time. And then last year, there was no excuse for it. I've never seen a fan base who's won exactly jack shit be so entitled. So what, they have one more division championship than the Buccaneers, who haven't been in our division for 25 years? Like you're
Yeah.
23 years, you're bragging about that? Congratulations. And people can paint Detroit to be whatever town they think it is. Would you live in Detroit? I wouldn't live in Detroit if I was forced there.
no.
I
I
No.
just think
because
like
it's just not a great city. People they'll defend Detroit. It's not a great city. It's not. And
yeah,
they
I
could say they're great fans. Do you ever seen a Vikings fan with a bag over their head ever in the history of ever? Those aren't good
oh
fans.
yeah,
And 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that stadium wasn't selling out. So
Mhm.
where were these great fans then? There was a period of time for 6, 7 years between the mid 2010s, et cetera, when Leslie Frazier, et cetera, was coaching. The fans were still there. Fans were still going. We didn't give up.
Yeah.
Their fans are so fair weather. It's just like whatever, whatever. I tell you, O'Connell needs to get that straight though, because the way that he loses to the Lions pisses me off.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
like it's funny because you brought it up how the Lions were expected to go in and compete for a Super Bowl, make the Super Bowl, or win the Super Bowl, whatever that is. At the end of the sorry, I got bad weather coming in, so if it flickers on and off, pardon me for that. But I think with them though, like for us, we kind of looked at it as like it was kind of an honor just to be nominated to like even have a shot or like be in the mix for it because no one really expected us to be there. Kind of like how they were, I don't know, maybe how they were in 2023-ish, kind of where, they made that big run in the playoffs. Like maybe something similar to that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I still think a lot of people had the Lions as like a team that could compete, kind of like how we were this last year. So, but this year, like they were the top dog. They won 15 games, the number one seed for the first time, since the Big Bang? I mean, who knows? I mean, like,
Yeah, they've never been the number one seed.
I just to have that expectation. Oh yeah, they've never been the number one seed. Yeah, like you had these expectations, and then you're a one and done, and they're gonna go and say, "Well, we made it farther by because you had the bye. Great, good job." That's like, that's like saying, "Oh, it's like if two people got killed. Oh, well, you just got killed one bullet later. Good job." So it's kind of how you're basically bragging about. You just died 5 seconds later. Who cares? But I just find it kind of odd. But now that their coaching staff is gone, that was their what do you call it the last dance, I guess, with their coaching staff. And guess what? Who had the last dance post last time before Devontae Adams got up and shipped out of there was the Packers, and they finished third in the NFC North that year. So who knows? I mean, things could get interesting without them being there. I do think Campbell.
Oh. I think Drew's having some connection problems.
No, and to piggyback on that, generationally, what he was saying is, generationally, this was a once in a lifetime team for the Lions. And in a year where we were sort of dicking around with a backup quarterback, we won one less game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sticks in the. I talk to those people. That sticks in the craws of those people. They hate that. Like, we're just out here having a good time doing our thing, and they're driving hard, and they got all these injuries, and things are sideways, and they just can't get it done. That Commanders game made me so happy.
Oh, I bet it's just one of those games that it just makes you feel good on the inside. I guess
Yeah.
best way to put it.
Wish
But
TikTok wouldn't have been gone that day. I'd have had a field day.
oh my god, that I was so happy that the Lions, because people at work, my coworkers were all like, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind the Lions in the Super Bowl." What? Like you're saying that you wouldn't mind the Packers in there? Oh well, no, the Lions just have never won anything. Well, so I don't want them to win anything.
I don't
I
want them to
don't.
win anything before we do.
Yeah,
I'll just
exactly.
listen. You can call me Mr. Petty. I'm petty as hell. Like, I don't
Oh,
want that.
yeah,
You think, oh, we're the only team in the division to not win a Super Bowl? I mean, it's embarrassing enough that the Buccaneers, who've been one of the shittiest franchises in the history of football, have two championships and we have nothing.
yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable.
It's
Yeah.
odd. But last game of the season before we wrap this up, we have the Green Bay Packers. Everything's to be determined right now, but ending the season at home against the Green Bay Packers. Um, I kind of expected this, honestly. I didn't really expect any other opponents, but yeah,
Yeah.
ending the season against the Packers. How we feeling?
I like that. I honestly, I think that's great. And at that point, I like it towards the end of the season because if there's something on the line, we're doing it with them. If there
Yep.
isn't anything on the line, then it's like, we're getting ready for the playoffs or whatever, right? I mean, how do you lose? I mean, and the fact is, we're not playing them in Green Bay on December, 30th or 31st or whatever it
Yep.
is, right? That to me is great that we're not stuck playing that late game again. So.
Yeah, at least we get them, midway through the season, that November 23rd. It can get really cold. That's probably the last time it will ever be somewhat nice out. Nice
Yeah.
meaning like, I don't know, 40, 30 degrees, something like that. But regardless, I'm actually pretty content with this schedule. At first, I was not, super happy with the two international games back to back. But, I just don't like that bye week super early. But other than that, honestly, I do like the way that the schedule's laid out. I do like the amount of primetime games that we get. Do you have any other last comments on the schedule before we hop off?
No, I'm kind of like you. When I first saw the schedule, for the last month when they started rumoring these overseas games, I was very kind of not because it's not that I'm against it, right? But I mean, last
Hmm.
year I spent so much money, and I thought it would be a nice year to just take one little road trip and whatever. It's more
See how it
selfish than
is.
anything, yeah. And
Yeah.
just take it easy. Go to Dallas or go wherever, right? Pittsburgh, Seattle, whatever. And now, I just think it's hard on the fan base. And it's like, do you really want to? Fans want to get up at 8 o'clock and watch a game 2 weeks in a row. Like
One week's enough,
yeah, it was
honestly.
cool in London though, because the game in London was like at 1:30, and then when our game was over, then I got to sit and watch the rest of the games.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, I guess. But
When
I
would
don't know.
Sunday Night Football start? Would that be like
Yeah, so Sunday
2 in the
night
morning?
football was oh no, it was like 10 or 11 at night.
Oh, okay.
Because the
That's not
Packers
terrible.
were the Packers were playing Sunday night football and they were playing against the Rams. And it
Okay.
was it was super late. It was such a weird feeling, right? I mean, you're going to
Yeah.
bed over there at 10 o'clock, and it's still like 7 or what it was, like 5 o'clock here. That's an adjustment, dude. I'll tell you, if you ever get over there, that is just one of the hardest things ever is getting that time right. Five
Yeah.
hours. 5 hours is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people always talk about like going to like the east or west coast, like that being like an hour or two difference, wherever you go. But
Yeah.
some people are like, oh, that kind of messes you up. I'm like, it didn't really mess
Yeah.
me up. It's an hour or two. But
Yeah.
London is a totally different animal. I would love to check out London someday for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I'm excited. We're excited to go back. We're trying to put all the pieces together. It's a logistical thing, trying to get everything to fit.
Yep.
And of course, it's about money. It's, um, the euro, the
Always
dollar,
is.
the dollar sort of gets beat up over there with the euro, and so I'm not going to complain. I'm a blessed person, and I have done well enough in life to be able to afford some of these things, and so
Yeah. Treat yourself.
Yeah, my daughter, it's memories we'll never forget, and so it looks like this year we're going to try to get 5, 6, 7 people to go. So,
Ooh, okay,
yeah.
nice little group.
Yeah, it'd be nice to
Awesome.
have a group. Nothing against my daughter, but it'd be nice to have a group of friends where, if she doesn't want to do something, she's not forced to just hang out with dad all day, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you guys have it. That is the 2025 Minnesota Vikings schedule, brought to you by yourself, Dustin, and John, Vikings Day One. Make sure you guys check out his podcast as well. Check out his TikTok, especially the Skull After Dark. It's the best thing ever. I will always say that every time.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get you on here more, too. I love
would
your
love it,
stories.
Yeah, I'm working on another influencer, me and that person doing a show every week during the season. And we got some exciting guests coming. I'm not going to spoil it. We got some guests coming back for the podcast. You can find the podcast anywhere podcasts are. YouTube, Apple, Amazon Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio at Vikes Day One. Vikes Day One. A new one came out, 2 hours with Sally Spice, talking about the schedule before it was released. So check that out. Yeah, we're excited for season 2. We're not sure who exactly we'll end up having on it, but last year we had some incredible guests: Harrison Phillips, Alan Roach, Vikings public address announcer. We had Chad Greenway. We've had some wonderful guests. Very lucky. Adam Rank from NFL Network. He'll be back. I'm not sure exactly when, but soon. So
awesome. Yeah, like, he's got great stuff. Make sure you guys go follow his podcast everywhere. You guys want to listen to that. I'm sure you do. I'm trying to get Charles Johnson on my podcast, former wide receiver. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
So with that said, make sure you guys leave a like on this video. Comment down below if you guys are listening. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, 612 Vikings. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Skol Vikes.
Skol.